Hey Planeswalkers, this is Eric from Bane Alley Magic bringing you another deck tech video, and again, we're talking about Modern, and this time we're doing a redo on the last deck I just did, which the main card in the deck is Divine Visitation. So, Divine Visitation is an enchantment for 3 generic and 2 white that says, if one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. And so the reason I'm continuing with trying to build a deck around this card is because I think it's so powerful. It's even more powerful than Doubling Season in certain situations. So Doubling Season is really great, you know, if you're trying to pull out Planeswalkers, if you're trying to put +1/+1 counters on things, and it is also really great if you're just making creature tokens. But the reason I think Divine Visitation is better when it comes to making creature tokens specifically is because instead of just doubling the tokens, you're making them into 4/4s, and most of the time I think that's going to be even better, because if you think about, so instead of making a single 1/1 creature token, Doubling Season is going to give you 2 1/1 creature tokens, right? So that's 2 power instead of 1 power. But with Divine Visitation, you're going to be getting 4 power instead of 1 power. So as long as the creature tokens aren't going to be power, 3 or greater, then Divine Visitation is going to be a better deal, because you're going to be getting more power out of the deal. Of course, if you had both of these enchantments out, the game would be absolutely bonkers. You'd be getting twice that many creature tokens, and they would all be flying angels. I didn't include Doubling Season in this deck because I really want to cash in on the Divine Visitation. I want to see how good Divine Visitation is. Maybe eventually I'll take one of the Divine Visitations out and put in a Doubling Season too. But for now, we're working with Divine Visitation and trying to just see how much value we can get out of it, again, in the Modern format, which is kind of a little broken right now. But I think even though there are lots of broken decks in Modern, you can still have a lot of fun playing it. And you got to remember that most people are actually trying to build decks that are going to defeat the current broken decks. You know, it's not like everyone out there is running Kadoltha, Rebirth, KCI. They're not everyone's running Vengevine, it's not like you have to spend a lot of money to build a broken deck. There are plenty of budget decks out there that aren't that broken, like Hollow One, even though there are a few expensive cards in it. The point being, you can still have a lot of fun, especially when you're just playing with your friends, with any format. It's when you go to a tournament that you realize, oh, my deck's maybe not that powerful. Well, sure, but remember, when you're playing with your friends, that's what's most important to me. So let's get into the deck. Divine Poison. So last time we were talking about Divine Assembly, which combined Divine Visitation with Thopter Assembly, and I realized I was getting a little greedy there. Thopter Assembly is a lot to cast. So now we're combining Divine Visitation with Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons. So we get Divine Poison. So Hapatra is a legendary creature, a 2/2 human cleric for a black and a green, which is in the colors our deck has always been in, black, white, and green. And Hapatra says, whenever Hapatra deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. And whenever you put one or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create a 1/1 green snake creature token with Death Touch. So Hapatra is already really good by herself. She already feeds into her own ability, putting -1/-1 counters on things and making snake tokens. All alone, she does pretty good, especially with a token strategy. So obviously with the Divine Visitation, we're going to be getting out 4/4 flying vigilance angels every time we put a -1/-1 counter on something. So the last kind of part of the combo here is to, hopefully we have lots of creatures on the battlefield, lots of tokens at least that we've made. We have plenty of ways to make tokens. And so the last part of the combo is to have Black Sun Zenith, which is X black for a sorcery, put X -1/-1 counters on each creature, and then you get to shuffle Black Sun Zenith back into your library. So it's really great because we got 4 copies of it. And we're going to be drawing it absolutely all the time. You know, there's always going to be at least 3 copies in the deck, as long as there's only 1 in our hand. And if there's not 1 in our hand, we have 4 copies in the deck at all times, in case someone, you know, counters it or exiles it somehow. So with Hapatra, we're gonna be basically getting, you know, when we make X just 1, that's all we got to do is make X 1. So pay 3 mana for Black Sun Zenith, and then we're basically going to be getting a 1/1 Death Touch Snake for each creature on the battlefield as long as Hapatra's out. And if we have Divine Visitation out, we're going to be getting a 4/4 Flying Vigilance Angel for each creature that's on the battlefield. So super great value if we can get all 3 of those cards going. But even if not, I mean, just Hapatra with Black Sun Zenith is going to get us tons of creature tokens. Now, unfortunately, Hapatra says 1 or more -1/-1 counters, so it doesn't matter if you pump more mana into Black Sun Zenith. Though, you know, that can be good to board wipe, you know, so Black Sun Zenith is a double advantage in our deck because we get to board wipe. And we don't really care about board wiping our own creatures because we're playing a token deck, and especially because immediately we're going to be getting that many angel creature tokens anyway. But if you do pump more into X, Hapatra is not going to give you more snakes. Next in our creature token creating list, we got Secure the Wastes, which is X and a white for an instant speed spell. And you can put X 1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. So I'm surprised this card isn't seen more play in the modern format. It can get you tons of white warriors at instant speed, so you can respond to someone attacking and use these as blockers, or more importantly, you can play these at the end of your opponent's end step, and then these guys can attack right away, and your opponents aren't going to be as prepared. Next, we got Lingering Souls, the classic sorcery that's going to get us creature tokens. So Secure the Wastes is our great instant creature token creator, but Lingering Souls is probably the all-star of the deck, you know, creating 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying for just 3 mana is huge. I mean, you can find plenty of spells like this. For example, you know, if you pump two into X of Secure the Wastes, you know, you're getting 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens, but they don't have flying, so that's what makes Lingering Souls so busted. And also, you get to flash it back for just 2 mana. So for just 2 mana, you're getting 2 more 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. And so with Secure the Wastes, you know, you're getting warriors and Lingering Souls, you're getting spirits, and with any of these, hopefully, we're actually going to be getting angels instead, and we can be getting tons of angels. We got 4 of each of these spells in the deck. We also got another creature that can get us creature tokens, Hero of Bladehold. And so we're going to be trying to look for Hero of Bladehold with Eldritch Evolution, so we got 2 copies of that. So Eldritch Evolution is 1 generic and 2 green for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Eldritch Evolution, sacrifice a creature, and you search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost, and put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, and then you have to exile Eldritch Evolution. So with this, if we sacrifice a Hapatra, we can get a Hero of Bladehold onto the battlefield immediately. And, you know, we got 4 copies of Hapatra, and she's legendary, so, you know, we don't mind so much about sacrificing her, because we'll probably have another copy that we can cast. And also, we can just sacrifice a token, or one of our mana dorks, that's coming up next. We can sacrifice one of our other creatures or one of our tokens to tutor up a Hapatra with Eldritch Evolution. So Eldritch Evolution can get us a couple of good creatures. And so if we sacrifice Hapatra, we get Hero of Bladehold. We only got 1 of them. And it's 2 generic and 2 white for a human knight. That's a 3/4 with Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until the end of the turn. These kinds of creatures can actually deal a ton of damage. They are not to be underestimated. And whenever Hero of Bladehold attacks, put 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So hopefully, instead of the soldiers, we're going to be getting 4/4 Flying Vigilance Angels tapped and attacking. Pretty sweet. Alright, now onto the ramp. So we got 4 Avacyn's Pilgrim to help with the white mana. 4 Birds of Paradise, that can help add any mana of any color to our mana pool. And 4 Awakening Zone, which is an enchantment for 2 generic and a green. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token, with sacrifice this creature to add a colorless mana to your mana pool. So this is going to be getting you a creature every single turn, a creature token that eventually could be turning into a 4/4 angel every single turn. Pretty sweet. And with these 4 ramp spells, or with these 12 ramp spells in the deck, excuse me, we're going to be getting to the Divine Visitation pretty easily. And lastly, we got 4 Path to Exile, just to smooth out the removal. Solid removal spell. The opponent only gets to get a land in exchange for exiling their best creature. Helps with the Ulamogs, helps with the any of the Eldrazi Titans, helps with anything that keeps coming back and back from the graveyard. And on the subject of removal, that's one of the more powerful strategies of our deck, is that we don't care about them removing our spells. That's why you'll see we don't have anything that makes our creatures hexproof or makes our creatures indestructible, because one of the great things about tokens is we recover so easily from board wipes. When your opponent is forced to use their removal spells on a token, they always feel bad about it, because they're not really dealing with the source of that token, So it's great to play the token strategy, because not only does it go wide, is it hard to block, in our case it goes wide and tall, but also token strategy is really great when it comes to removal, because you got lots of little creatures, and unless they're playing a full-on board wipe, they're not gonna take out all of your creatures in any case. And also, even if they do play a full-on board wipe, like I said, it's really easy for a token deck to recover, so we don't need to fill up our deck with make our creatures indestructible or hexproof, things like that. Alright, so now onto the lands. We got 22 lands total, 5 forests, 2 swamps, 5 plains, 2 overgrown tomb, 2 godless shrines, 2 temple garden, and 4 windswept heaths. So we got the 4 fetches that can get us any of our shock lands, so if we get any of our fetches, we can fix right away. And then onto the sideboard, which is pretty much the same as it was before, except now instead of 4 Stony Silence, we have 2 Stony Silence and 2 Night of Autumn, because I figured, we might need an extra creature to come out, and Night of Autumn has these great choices on it. We can gain life if we're going against a burn deck, we can destroy an artifact or an enchantment, or we can just get a big creature out. That's always good. And Inquisition of Kozilek is kind of a, catch-all, help us deal with anything that's converted mana cost 3 or less that we don't like. Leyline of Sanctity and Leyline of the Void both enter the battlefield if they're in our opening hand. We just start the game with them on the battlefield, so that's great. Leyline of Sanctity gives us hexproof, so we can't be the target of spells or abilities our opponents control, so that really helps with, dealing against, discard decks or fighting against burn decks. And Leyline of the Void is basically going to absolutely nullify your opponent's abilities to play things from their graveyard, which, if you don't know, most decks in Modern right now are built around the graveyard. We got KCI, we got Vengevine, we got the, Living End decks, so many decks are built around the graveyard. So if Leyline of the Void's in your opening hand, those decks are pretty much shut down. And like I said, Stony Silence to help us deal with artifact decks, and that's pretty much it for Divine Poison. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, please subscribe or, like it. It helps out a lot. So this is Eric signing off. Until next time, take care. Take it easy.